In the late 1950s, Manchester United had one of the youngest sides to ever grace the English Football League. Although everyone believed that you cannot win anything with kids, Manchester United, managed by Matt Busby, won the 1955-56 First Division, which is now known as Premier League. We're not going into the First Division today. With 11 more points than Blackpool, Manchester United would add their 4th league title to their trophy cabinet and also qualify for the brand new, just recently prepared European Cup competition. This competition is also now known as the Champions League. However, Matt Busby had a tough time getting permission to enter the European Cup, but not by the UEFA or anything, but by the league itself. Alan Hardacre, the chairman of the league, banned Chelsea from taking part last season, which would have been the first European Cup. He believed that teams in England should focus more on domestic competitions, then going over the British Isles and playing in continental competitions. Why is it with English board members and not wanting to take part of competitions outside of Britain? First the World Cup, and now the European Cup. Do they think they're superior?
I don't know, Jeff, has it?
In the 1956-57 league, United won it again, with Billy Whelan scoring 29 goals more than the last season, and with the help of Tommy Taylor, top goal scorer of last season, and this new winger. I don't really know if anyone probably knows him. He was a very young kid, 20. Bobby Charlton. Busby finally got his way, and Manchester United would play Anderlecht in the... Hold on, I can't say this word apparently. Preliminary round. Preliminary.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
They played in Belgium and won 2-0. The Belgian side was then welcomed to Old Trafford for the second leg and would be smashed 10-0. They narrowly beat Borussia Dortmund, and although they lost 5-3 against Atletico Bilbao, they won 3-0 at Old Trafford, seeing them to face Real Madrid. But with this young side and a lot of potential, winning 2 leagues and getting to the semis in Europe and FA Cup final and winning the Charity Shield, the Busby Babes were creating chaos everywhere they go. And with the new season, what would happen would not only shake English football, but Europe as well. In the first 6 games, United were unbeatable, winning 5 and drawing against Everton. They then lost 4-0 at Burden Park against Bolton Wanderers. Quickly over to the Europe side, and United had travelled to Ireland to smash Shamrock Rovers 6-0. And then, in the second leg, won 3-2 at home. They then had to face Dukla Prague. I hope I've said that right. And won 3-0 at home. Even though losing in Czechoslovakia, they still advanced. This would mean that they would have to face Yugoslavia's Red Star Belgrade. In the FA Cup, however, they had faced Workington in the 3rd round, and then Ipswich. Back in the league, United were unbeaten after Christmas. They were strong contenders of winning the league, and this would have been their 3rd league in a row. They beat Leicester on the 21st and Luton on Christmas. After their win on Christmas, they then went on to 3 straight draws. United played their first leg against Red Star at Old Trafford, managed to scrape by 2-1. After, they played Bolton at Old Trafford and paid them back for the defeat in September with a 7-2 victory. On the 1st of February, United would travel to Highbury as they would face Arsenal, and with their incredible attacking football, which became their trademark, the Busby Babes would win 5-4. Next game, United would have to travel to Yugoslavia on a private plane instead of a commercial one. This was because the Football League wouldn't let them move their game with Wolverhampton on the 8th. On the 5th of February 1958, the Young United squad started their game against Red Star Belgrade. In the first 2 minutes, Denis Violet, hope I say his name right, scored. Bobby Charlton would end the first half, scoring twice in the space of a minute, the 30th and the 31st. And although in the second half Belgrade would score 3 goals, they couldn't find a winner, and United would progress to the semi-finals against either Borussia Dortmund or AC Milan. Their game was still yet to be played. On the way to Manchester, the plane had to stop at Munich, West Germany, to refuel, and once that was done, the plane started their journey at 2:31 p.m. However, the weather on the day was treacherous. High winds and falling snow and slush was gathering on the runway. The first attempt was aborted due to boost pressure in the left engine. A second attempt was made 3 minutes later, but abandoned again due to another engine issue. Duncan Edwards sent a telegram back to his landlady, telling her the flights to Manchester were cancelled. However, 15 minutes later, the team, including journalists and club members, returned to the plane. Former RAF James Fane decided that if opening the throttle slowly wasn't working, then he would have to open it slower. This would mean that the plane could only achieve enough velocity to take off till it got further down the runway. Although the runway was 2 kilometers or 1.2 miles, the captain believed it was possible. Some of the players thought it would be safer to be at the back of the plane, including top goal scorer Tommy Taylor, Eddie Coleman, Mark Jones, and ex-City goalkeeper and journalist Frank Swift. Billy Whelan was not particularly a confident flyer, but before taking off he said this: "This may be death, but I'm ready." At 3:03, the cockpit had confirmed departure from the airport. The plane started to accelerate, and slush started flying as the speed of the plane fluctuated. From 117 knots to 112 knots, the plane suddenly fell to 105, and co-pilot and former RAF pilot Kenneth Raymond shouted, "Christ, we won't make it." The plane had skidded off the runway and hit the fence that surrounded the entire airport and crossed the road. A part of the wing was torn off and hit a home of 6. Luckily, the mother and 3 children escaped from the burning building, while the father and the eldest daughter weren't at home. Half the tail was taken off, and the left side of the cockpit smashed right into a tree. The right side of the fuselage hit a wooden hut, which contained fuel and tyres, which exploded. Fane, seeing the fire surrounding the cockpit, immediately ordered the crew to evacuate the plane. However, Raymond couldn't get out of his seat and told Fane to go without him. Fane grabbed a fire extinguisher to stop the spread of the fire reaching the fuel in the starbound wing. The captain shouted that he will be back for Kenneth once the fire was dealt with. Northern Irish goalkeeper Harry Gregg regained consciousness and kicked a hole wide enough for him to escape, saving as many passengers as he could, including the young Bobby Charlton and Denis Volant, the 2 goal scorers in the 3-3 draw against Belgrade. 23 people died from the incident, 8 journalists including Frank Swift, who died on his way to hospital, 3 club officials and 8 players, as well as 4 other victims, including Kenneth Raymond, who died 5 weeks later in hospital due to the injuries to his head. Johnny Berry and Jackie Blanchflower, 2 players who survived the crash, were told that they would never play again due to their injuries, while manager Matt Busby stayed in hospital for an extra 2 months and was given his last rites twice. After, he went into a depression and even thought about giving up the sport itself, till his wife told him that the lads would have wanted him to carry on. Matt Busby's assistant, Jimmy Murphy, didn't travel to Yugoslavia. Instead, he went to Cardiff to manage the Welsh national team in a qualifier for the World Cup against Israel. Happy from the win and qualifying for Sweden, the news about Munich would devastate him. He would then take charge as Busby was recovering. James Frayne was blamed for not checking the ice on the wings and causing the incident. However, witness statements said that there wasn't any ice to begin with. James was dismissed by the BAA in 1961 and retired to a poultry farm in Berkshire. The German authorities would dismiss the charges in 1969, and in 1975, James would die from a heart attack, aged 53. After the disaster, United would only win one game in the league, a 2-1 victory over Sunderland. However, they would drop to 9th at the end of the season. Their first game after the disaster was an FA Cup match at home against Sheffield Wednesday. A special programme was made for the game, with blank spaces where players who died on the day would have been, excluding Duncan Edwards, who would die 24 hours after. United would win 3-0 against Sheffield Wednesday and then would go to play West Brom. And after a replay, they would then win to play Fulham. And after another replay, they were then in the FA Cup final. For the FA Cup final, Manchester United would wear a phoenix on their shirts, representing that the club, no matter in death, will always rise back up. Unfortunately, they would then lose to Bolton Wanderers. In Europe, however, they did win against AC Milan 2-1 at home. However, they would then later lose at the San Siro 4-0, knocking them out of Europe. Before Sheffield Wednesday, the board was talking about closing Manchester United Football Club. There was a shortage of players and not enough money to bring more people in. Jimmy Murphy didn't want that to happen, so he made some calls, bringing in youth players from the youth academy and contacting any of the survivors if they were fit enough to play against Sheffield. Putting rivals aside, Liverpool offered 5 players on loan, and non-league club Bishop Auckland offered 3 players on short-term contracts. Victims of the families and people that just wanted to help, and clubs around, offered to raise money to keep the club afloat and help out anyone who was affected. Busby would then return in the next season, and Real Madrid would even offer Alfredo Di Stefano for a season loan, paying half of his wages. However, this was rejected by the FA. Madrid decided to raise funds and organise friendlies. Although the club went into a decline, Matt Busby rebuilt the Busby Babes with players like Dennis Law and George Best, as well as now captain Bobby Charlton. 10 years later, they will then beat Benfica in the European Cup, with 2 survivors from the tragedy, Bobby Charlton and Bill Fawkes. This day would always be remembered as the day when many young lads who had just started their careers and wanted to just play football, lives were cut short. At the east stand of Old Trafford, you can find the Munich Tunnel, which tributes the memory of players who passed on that day, what they did before, and also the determination to rise and not only return as champions of England, but also in Europe. You can also find a stone plaque in Munich commemorating those who passed on that tragic day. Thank you for watching my first video on the new channel, Sand Sports Prime. Yes, I find that name hilarious. There's nothing you can do about that. If you're interested, then please subscribe. I plan to make more videos on this channel about sports that I'm interested in, mainly football. Probably going to be mostly football, but maybe I'll try and speak about other sports like tennis, badminton, chess. There is another channel, I don't know if you probably know, it's called the Sandstorm Prime. This is where I play games and do other weird stuff like making tea. You can find that channel down below. Want more recent stuff? Then check out my Instagram, where I do match reports at games I randomly go to, ranging from the National League North to League One, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, the Virtue Cup, or whatever it's called now, as well as the Championship, National League, League Two, and any more in the future. If you want more football videos, however, I did make a documentary on my main channel about the 2010 World Cup. Thanks for watching.